Hello everyone, Daria here and welcome to episode number 69 of the Slow Russian Language Podcast. Today we're going to talk about Russian writers. I would even say top 3 Russian writers. As usual, first I read the text in Russian and after that we translate it and speak about some interesting vocabulary. Here we go. Русскую литературу любят во всем мире. Сегодня мы поговорим о нескольких русских писателях XIX века. Александр Сергеевич Пушкин – это не только поэт, но и драматург и прозаик. В школе мы проходим его произведения «Дубровский» и «Капитанская дочка». Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky – русский писатель и философ XIX века. Самые знаменитые его романы «Преступление и наказание», «Идиот», «Братья Карамазовы», «Бесы». Лев Николаевич Толстой – один из величайших писателей мира. Романы «Война и мир» и Анна Каренина входят в сокровищницу мировой литературы. That was it for this short text. Now let's translate it. The first sentence was, Russian literature is loved all over the world. Русскую литературу любят во всем мире. It's interesting that we don't have the object here. Actually, it should be people all over the world like Russian literature. Люди любят русскую литературу. But in the Russian language, it's very common to just drop the noun. So the next sentence. Today we will talk about several Russian writers of the 19th century. Сегодня мы поговорим о нескольких русских писателях XIX века. And faster, сегодня мы поговорим о нескольких русских писателях XIX века. And the first writer, Alexander Sergeevich Pushkin. Alexander Sergeevich Pushkin. So Alexander Pushkin was not only a poet, but also a playwright and a prose writer. Пушкин – это не только поэт, но и драматург и прозаик. First, let's talk a little bit about the name. As you can see, it's a full name. Usually in the English language, it's just Alexander Pushkin. But of course, in Russia, we have patronymics. Alexander Sergeevich Pushkin. Sergeevich means that his father's name was Sergei. And if you want to learn more about Russian names, go to episode 14, Russian names. So, who was this Pushkin? He was not only a poet, не только поэт, but also a playwright and a prose writer, но и драматург и прозаик. Just like in English, in Russian, prosa means prose. And the word dramaturg comes from the word drama. So it's someone who writes plays for a theater. Dramaturg. And I mentioned this because I guess 90% of people think that Pushkin is just a poet, because of course he is famous with his poetry in the first place. Okay, the next sentence. At school we study his works Dubrovsky and The Captain's Daughter. В школе мы проходим его произведения Дубровский и Капитанская дочка. Interesting verb проходить. You may already know it as one of the verbs of motion, meaning to pass something. Проходить. For example, you are walking near some store and you pass it by. In Russian you say «Я прохожу мимо магазина». Проходить. But also it has a meaning of studying something at school or at university. Проходить. For example, in literature class, we study Pushkin. Мы проходим Пушкина. Or maybe we study figures in geometry. Проходим фигуры на геометрии. Or maybe we study oceans in geography classes. Мы проходим океаны на географии. So it means to study something. And in this text, I name two of his prose works. Dubrovsky и Капитанская дочка. Dubrovsky is the last name of the main character, and The Captain's Daughter. Капитанская дочка. Okay, the next passage. Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky. He was a Russian writer and philosopher of the 19th century. Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky. Русский писатель и философ XIX века. So philosopher is very easy to remember. Philosoph. Philosoph. The next sentence. His most famous novels are Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, The Brothers Karamazov, Demons. Самые знаменитые его романы «Преступление и наказание», «Идиот», «Братья Карамазовы», «Бесы». Pay attention to the word роман. In English, роман is novel. And actually in Russian we have a word novella. But novella is a short story. It has nothing to do with a novel. So be careful and don't confuse it when maybe you take part in some literary conversation. Роман. Also it has another meaning as a love affair. Роман. For example, that famous Soviet movie, служебный роман, office romance, but actually it means love affair at work. Роман. And then I name the most popular, the most famous novels. Crime and Punishment, Преступление и наказание. I used to love it at school. And when I got pregnant, I even wanted to name my child after the main character. And of course, all my relatives were saying I was crazy because he was a bad guy, a murderer. But seriously, it was one of my most beloved characters. His name was Родион Раскольников. Anyways, you should read this novel yourself. Crime and Punishment. Преступление и наказание. Then we have The Idiot, Idiot, another amazing novel. I think I read it more than 5 times. First time was at school, then 2 times at the university, and then 2 more times after the university because it's just amazing. I'm not sure about English translation, but in Russian it's just great. Idiot. And of course, Brothers Karamazov and Demons. Братья Карамазовы and Бесы. And the last passage about Leo Tolstoy, of course. Leo Nikolaevich Tolstoy was one of the greatest writers in the world. Лев Николаевич Толстой – один из величайших писателей мира. So the greatest in Russian is величайший. For example, the greatest success. Величайший успех. And he was the greatest writer. Величайший писатель. And not just a writer. Again, he was a philosopher and just an incredible person. I'm reading his biography now and the memoirs of other writers about him. It's someone you should really read about because it's a very, very interesting man. And the last sentence. Novels War and Peace and Anna Karenina are included as two of the treasures of world literature. Романы «Война и мир» и «Анна Каренина» входят в сокровищницу мировой литературы. «Война и мир» War and Peace and Anna Karenina. And for God's sake, don't watch that terrible, terrible movie with Keira Knightley. Anna Karenina, it was awful. Jude Law was kind of okay there, but the rest is terrible. Everything is terrible there. So I highly recommend reading the book first, of course. Okay, that was it for the translation. Now let's read this same text faster. Listen. Русскую литературу любят во всем мире. Сегодня мы поговорим о нескольких русских писателях XIX века. Александр Сергеевич Пушкин – это не только поэт, но и драматург и прозаик. В школе мы проходим его произведения «Дубровский» и «Капитанская дочка». Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky – русский писатель и философ XIX века. Самые знаменитые его романы «Преступление и наказание», «Идиот», «Братья Карамазовы», «Бесы». Лев Николаевич Толстой – один из величайших писателей мира. Романы «Война и мир» и Анна Каренина входят в сокровищницу мировой литературы. So that was it. Those three writers, Pushkin, Dostoevsky, and Tolstoy, are considered the best Russian writers of all time. But of course there were many more, and my personal favorite is Lermontov, as I said in the previous episode. Lermontov is amazing. But that's it for today, and if you like this format, if you like slow Russian with explanations and examples, you can join my membership program. For $15 per month, you will receive 4 to 5 extra episodes where I speak about Russian culture, about Russian songs, Russian poems, stories, movies, all that cultural stuff that will help you to immerse into the Russian culture a little bit. And also you'll get access to a library and be able to download many useful books there. To join, you should go to realrussianclub.com/membership. Very easy. realrussianclub.com/membership. And I'll be happy to see you as one of my students. So that was it for today. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode of the Slow Russian Language Podcast. Bye-bye!